Hi everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today we are going on an incredible journey back in time. We are talking about photos that are almost 180 years old. Have you ever wondered what the very first photos of American presidents looked like? Or what Washington, D.C. looked like when photography was brand new? Today, I am taking you on a special slideshow tour through some of the oldest and most amazing photos in American history. We are going to explore the treasure vaults of three incredible places: the United States National Archives, the Library of Congress, and the Smithsonian Institute. These places guard some of the most precious images from our nation's past. Presidential photos so old that some of them were taken as far back as 1843. So imagine this. We are going to see faces of presidents who lived before the Civil War, government buildings that look totally different from today, and glimpse what life was like when America was still a young country. Some of these images have never been seen by most people because they are so rare and delicate. Today, we are not only going to take you on a tour of some of the oldest photos taken of presidents in Washington, D.C., but we are going to focus on a type of photo, the daguerreotype. Now, you might be wondering, what exactly is a daguerreotype? A daguerreotype was one of the very first ways to take a photograph, invented in the 1830s. Instead of using film like we used to use, or digital sensors like we use now, these early photographers used polished silver plates. The image was literally burned onto the metal surface using light and chemicals. Each photo took a really long time to capture. Sometimes people had to sit perfectly still for several minutes just to get one picture. And here's the crazy part. Each daguerreotype was completely unique. There was no way to make a copy like we can today. Such as this one of our 14th president, Franklin Pierce. This photo was thought to be taken between 1851 and 1860. This original is now kept in the Library of Congress. Notice how the image is fading and the silver is beginning to show through. In essence, the silver is still there, but it has chemically changed, basically tarnished, and is now obscuring the image, giving the appearance of fading. We'll see that throughout the photos that we look at. James Buchanan Jr. was the 15th President of the United States, serving from 1857 to 1861. He also served as the Secretary of State from 1845 to 1849 and represented Pennsylvania in both houses of the U.S. Congress. These three photos of him are thought to have been taken between 1844 and 1860. These photos are also in the Library of Congress. Next, we are going to look at President Andrew Jackson. I will say, these are some of my favorite photos because we are all so used to seeing images of him young in portraits and on the $20 bill. Andrew Jackson was the 7th President of the United States from 1829 to 1837. Before his presidency, he rose to fame as a general in the U.S. Army and served in both houses of the U.S. Congress. His political philosophy became the basis for the Democratic Party. Matter of fact, these photos were featured in the United States Magazine and Democratic Review in September 1845, a popular magazine in political theaters. The picture on the left is what is called a mezzotint, which is a type of printing process available at that time, and is most likely the photo that was featured in the magazine. I was unable to find a copy of this particular issue. Jackson died June 8, 1845, at the age of 78. The publication came out a few months after his death. These photos are from the Library of Congress and were thought to have been taken April 5, 1845, months before his death. Before we leave these photos of Jackson, did you notice the strange eyewear Jackson was wearing in one of the photographs? It looks like there are two lenses mounted in his eye wires and resting against the inside of each temple. These so-called swinging lenses would swing out from the top of the frame, allowing the wearer to switch between normal vision and magnification for reading small print. It's essentially an early form of bifocals. When I first came across the photos of Andrew Jackson, I thought these must be the oldest photos of a president. But in fact, this photograph of President John Quincy Adams is the earliest known photographic portrait of an American president. It dates from 1843, 14 years after John Quincy Adams completed his single presidential term. Adams was serving as a Massachusetts congressman when he visited the Washington, D.C. studio of Philip Haas. Intrigued by daguerreotypes, Adams noted in his diary that Haas described it as a chemical process upon mercury, silver, gold, and iodine. Adams added, "The operation is performed in half a minute, but is yet altogether incomprehensible to me." Haas apparently made 3 daguerreotypes of Adams, but this is the only original known to survive. I found this photo too of Adams, and it was marked 1840, making it older than the one we have been viewing. But according to the Smithsonian, the first one is the oldest known photograph of Adams. He is thought to be 75 years old in these photos. 5 years later, on February 21st, 1848, John Quincy Adams suffered a stroke while sitting at his desk on the floor of the House of Representatives. He was moved to the Speaker's room in the Capitol building when he fell into a coma. He died 2 days later. This daguerreotype is the earliest known photograph of Abraham Lincoln, taken at the age of 37 when he was a frontier lawyer in Springfield, Illinois, and congressman-elect from Illinois. This is thought to be taken in Springfield, either in 1846 or 1847. This photo is thought to have been taken in 1864, a year before his death. It looks much like his image on older $5 bills. This photo, taken February 9th, 1864, has the honor of being the image on the present $5 bill. Now let's take a look at some of the earliest existing photographic views of buildings and monuments in the nation's capital. Dating from 1846, these views include images of the White House, the Capitol, the Patent Office, the Washington Monument, and the General Post Office. In 1850, Senator Jefferson Davis introduced a bill to enlarge the U.S. Capitol building. This enlargement included large northern and southern wings containing new legislative chambers and a new cast iron dome to replace its original copper dome. This better suited the enlarged building. By 1868, the larger building was completed. The dome has been painted white in several restoration projects throughout its history. This is an 1870 picture of the Washington Monument as it stood for 25 years. In 1856, when funding shortages interrupted construction, the monument stood only 156 feet tall, out of a projected 500 feet. During the U.S. Civil War, the site was used for the grazing and slaughtering of government cattle, earning it the nickname Beef Depot Monument, as seen in this 1862 engraving. Its cornerstone had been laid years before on July 4, 1848, to great fanfare in front of 20,000 people. The monument was finally completed on December 6, 1884. But have you ever noticed that the monument appears to have a line of two different colors? This occurred because of the pause in construction and the use of different quarries for the stone. The lower portion was built using marble from a Maryland quarry. When the construction resumed, marble from a different quarry in Massachusetts was used, resulting in a color difference. This is the White House in 1846. But about 30 years earlier, the White House was burned by British forces in 1814 during the War of 1812. The fire caused significant damage, requiring extensive reconstruction. The White House was ready for occupancy in 1817. At the time of this picture, President James Polk and his wife Sarah resided in the White House. They were the 11th first family to live in the presidential residence. Thank you for joining us today on a grand tour of photos from the past. We invite you to watch all our historical videos where we dive into the archives to find generations of yesterday.